Hi everyone, it's Nina and I'm here today with Pretty Pink Posh. Pretty Pink Posh is one of the sponsors for the Holiday Coffee Lovers blog hop, and we also have a giveaway over on the Pretty Pink Posh blog, so be sure to head over in there after finishing watching this video. For my card today, I'm going to be sharing this card using the Winter Friends stamp set from Pretty Pink Posh. This features a lot of really cute holiday images, and one of them is this little coffee mug. I'm going to be using this to create a Christmas tree, and as you can see, I'm using my Misty tool. You can use any clear block for this. I'm going to be stamping this onto my paper here, and I'm going to be creating a tree shape. So for the first layer of stamping, I'm going to be doing one coffee mug in the middle of the card. I'm going to take a mask and I'm going to apply that over top, and then I'm going to line up my coffee mug on about halfway across the bottom portion of the mug, the first mug that we stamped, and I'm going to go ahead and line that up and then stamp it again to create a second mug. And I'm going to create then another mug next to that one to create a layer of 2 mugs. Then for the bottom layer, I'm going to create 3. So I'll do 3 across the entire card. And I'll just create this into a nice triangle shape until I have the shape of the tree that I'd like. For when I stamped the third layer, I ended up deciding to stamp the first one in the middle. This not only helped me make sure I lined up the stamps right, but it also allowed me to be able to kind of have a random placement for where the handles were on the mugs. So I ended up with 3 mugs that had handles in the front of each cup, and then I had 3 mugs with the handles in the back. And that was just kind of a nice balance between all of them. So here I'm coloring with Copic markers. I've got the colors I've used listed on the side of the screen so you can replicate the color combination. I'm going to be coloring them in greens, of course, since this is going to be a tree. And I'm just using some simple shading to color in these mugs and just give them a bit of a highlight to make sure that they have a nice bit of lightness to them. I'm only going to show you how I colored just a couple of the mugs because I repeated the same coloring process throughout the entire coloring. So I'm just adding some shading along the left and right hand side of each mug, and I'm making sure there's a bit of a highlight more on the left hand side of the mug than on the right. So once I've got all my mugs colored with the first coating of color, I'm going to bring in a slightly darker green, and I'm going to start adding in some deeper shading along the right hand side of each mug. This is just going to help give them a bit more of a dimensional look and bring in some darker color to help that lighter color really pop. And I love how it ends up turning out. You can see there's the finished coloring. I'm taking these scalloped frame dies. These are exclusive to Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to be die cutting this panel from these dies, and we're going to be doing some inlaid die cutting technique here. It's a slight variation to that, but it's going to be in that same type of process. So I'm going to die cut this from the white cardstock panel that we've created. So I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine and being careful to make sure I get a good even pressure. So I'm going to take this out of the die, and as you can see, we're left with a nice little scalloped frame, which we could use on another card, but we're not going to end up using it for this particular card because we're going to die cut it from some glitter cardstock again. Here's the glitter cardstock. This is American Crafts gold glitter paper, and I'm just going to be running this through, and we're going to be using the scalloped frame portion this time instead of the negative that the cardstock panel was created from. So here I'm creating a card base. Originally I was going with a 2-sized card base, but I ended up deciding to trim it down just a little bit, so it ended up being 5 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. So here's how the card's going to lay out. You can see the inlay die cutting technique. The only difference to the inlay die cutting is that we're going to pop up that white cardstock panel. And so it's not going to be a true inlay die cutting technique, but it's pretty similar. So, of course, this needs to look like a tree, so I'm taking a multi-liner and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a tree stump along the bottom portion of the middle coffee mug. And I'm going to take some brown Copics and I'm going to go ahead and add in some color to that tree trunk. Just doing some simple shading here. You don't have to do anything too technical. It's just going to be a slight portion sticking out from underneath the tree, so it doesn't need to be super detailed. So here I've got some transparency, and I'm going to prep it with my EK Success powder tool, and I'm taking a stamp which is from the Mama Elephant Jingle Greetings stamp set. It's a new one for this year. And I'm going to be stamping this in Versamark ink. Now, as you can see, I've used washi tape to mask off the end portions of the sentiment. I'm going to be stamping that again onto some other cardstock, so I don't need it for this particular stamping. Just stamping the word holiday. I'm going to be stamping this onto my acetate here, making sure I get a nice even impression. You don't want to move or smudge this too much, or otherwise you'll not have a crisp impression. So here I've got my heat gun. I let it heat up really well, and as you can see, I'm heating up my sentiment, but I'm only doing it for a short couple of seconds before I take the heat gun away and let the acetate cool. If you put too much heat all at once on the acetate, it will warp it, and you will end up with a really weird looking sheet of acetate, and it will be all curled up. So just be careful when you're heating it. Make sure you remove the heat every once in a while, every couple of seconds, just to let it cool down a bit, and then you can go ahead and back and apply more heat. So here's that sentiment again. I'm stamping it this time onto black cardstock, which I've also prepped with the EK6S powder tool. And I'm going to be stamping it down onto there with the Versamark ink. I'm going to go ahead and white heat emboss this. You can see I still had a little bit of stickiness to that first sentiment. When I did the first stamping, you can see the holiday had a little bit of stickiness to it. But I just took a dry brush and just brushed that off, and you would never know. So here I've got my sentiment from the clear acetate. I've trimmed it out, so I left a light border around the edges of the word holiday, and I'm now taping it down onto my black cardstock sentiment, and that's going to get popped up onto our panel then shortly. First, I'm going to take some craft foam. This is just some black fun foam, and I'm going to be applying it to the back side. This will give it dimension, and then I'm going to tape that down onto my card base, which I've already covered with the little glitter frame that we've already made. I've glued that down with some tape runner, and I'm just taking the inner portion. I'm going to attach that down as well. So here's that sentiment. I've popped it up onto some foam tape, and I'm going to place it along the bottom portion of the tree. Just going to line that up in the middle there. And here I've got a bunch of sequins. These are from the raspberry sequins, the classic Christmas, sparkling clear, and then also some gold stars. And I'm just gluing these down onto the tree to create some ornaments. Adds a really nice fun and festive feel to the card, really dresses it up. I'm using glossy accents to adhere these all down. It's a nice strong adhesive for applying that, and I'm using some EK6S tweezers. So that's going to do it. I hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to stop over at the Pretty Pink Posh blog, where you can get more details on this card, including the products used and information on the Coffee Lovers blog hop. And thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you again soon.